Hey, everybody. We are back with another episode of Eclectic Soundtrax podcast. Good friend and musical colleague Adam Kirby sitting in guest hosting today since Victor Ramos could not be here. And our guest, and it's appropriate that Adam's sitting in because Adam and I were walking down South Congress, passing out flyers and promoting Skunk Fest when we met our guest today, this young lady, Madeleine Hamilton, who has quite an interesting story. Madeline is a writer, a comedian, and a bagpiper. Is that what you call it? A bagpiper? Pipist?
Yeah, piper, bagpiper.
Bagpiper.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think pipist would be right.
No, that sounds wrong.
Pipe person.
Her
Pipe player.
bagpipe-centric one-woman show, Piping Hot, recently in 2023, you performed actually at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, received 4-star reviews from the Scotsman and Broadway World. You've written 4 pilots and 2 features. You were in Los Angeles for a while. Now you're in Austin, and you've done your comedy bit quite a bit here and there. And I actually saw you the other night at Radio Coffee doing I guess that was a shortened set, but you did comedy and then you play your bagpipe. And yeah, it's a very interesting, unique show that you have. It also says that. So you've been doing stand-up comedy, maybe I guess now for about 7 or 8 years. You performed at the Comedy Store, at Upright Citizens Brigade, and you clearly love bagpipes. So let's just start there. How did you start playing bagpipe, and how did that get into comedy? Let's go there.
Great question. I first got into stand-up comedy like when I got to college, and I was basically going to graduate college early, and then my parents were like, "You're going to regret that forever. You should just go abroad." And I was like, "Well, I want to go somewhere where I can still do comedy." And that basically left Scotland. And so when I went over there, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to study abroad, like I'm really going to dive in. I'm going to take all Scottish classes. And so I took this like Celtic civilization, history and linguistics class, art history of Scotland, and then history and performance of the bagpipes. And so I thought it would be funny to learn stand-up or to learn bagpipes in Scotland, and that it would be good for my stand-up, which it turns out was true. Great call on my part, but I got obsessed with bagpipes unironically, and I'm still obviously dealing with the effects of that today. I basically just started like realizing I'd get upset if I wasn't practicing every day. And I was like, oh God, like I think I actually love them. And then when I went back to LA for my senior year, all of my friends that had agreed to live with me were like, wait, sorry, what is this new instrument? And I was like, this is my whole thing now. You have to listen to me learn. And yeah, that was kind of kicked me off on this crazy journey.
And you've been friendless ever since.
Yeah. And they don't talk to me anymore.
So, okay, let's back up. You went to college in LA. Where are you from originally?
Mm-hmm. Houston.
Yeah, that's right. Houston, Texas. And then you went to Scotland. And how long were you there?
I just stayed abroad over there for like 6 months. So.
And did you say like you were like, yeah, Scotland comedy, like that's a good combo? I've never like thought like, oh, Scotland, the comedy hub of the world, like that's just where all the comedians aspire to go is Scotland.
So the world's largest performing arts festival is called the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which happens every August in Scotland. And so there's now like a ton of fringe festivals around the world, but like the original one, which is where like all the Monty Python people like first went up there to perform when they were like in college. And it's kind of just like known as the place where you perform like 30 nights in a row. You're kind of having to do like normally all your own marketing. It's very like DIY. And so it's like a big place where people will kind of like come up and like hone their show. And so I kind of knew that was like a thing that I thought would be cool to do one day going in. And so I kind of wanted to go over there and like explore the stand-up scene outside of the festival, but it turns out there actually isn't that much of one outside of the festival. So I was just having to do comedy at like music open mics, but they let me, so that was nice.
Well, that's cool. Like I didn't realize that was like a big thing. I mean, once you say Monty Python, even though obviously they're across the border in England, you're like, oh, that does make sense. Was there a
Mhm.
lot of like, are you into like the dry British style humor? And was there a lot, I'm assuming there was a lot of that style of humor, or I guess at that festival it's just people all over the world. So it's very eclectic.
Yeah, but there is like a big UK contingency. Like it's probably most UK just because it's like obviously over there. And yeah, definitely a lot of dry humor. I mean, the British can also just like they've got some weird humor. Like there's a lot of kind of like clowning and puppet shows and stuff that I don't know. As an American, I was kind of like, oh wow, the cultural differences are more than you would realize, especially like when it comes to stuff like that.
Have you ever seen the
But
comedy show? What was it called? Absolutely Fabulous or AbFab? It was a British produced show that kind of had what you're describing, just kind of absurd, ridiculous, over the top kind of situational comedy.
mhm. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I have heard about it. And yeah, it is, they just like love, I don't know, the absurd. And it
Right.
is like a weird contrast from their other option, which is being very dry and like restrained. So,
Yeah, I was over there. It's been many years now. I was over there a few times, many years back, and I was in Newcastle, staying with a good friend of mine, a musician. And when I first went over there, like I could not even understand his dad for like a week, and I started
well, yeah,
impersonating him. And I don't
Newcastle
think my friend
is,
likes it, but it's super thick, and I think it was like it's so different, right? It's not anything like the Cockney. Like there's the different accents around England, and you
yeah.
just drive an hour or two, and it's like between going from here to New York or something in terms of our accents. But yeah, I was just like, huh, like some of the terminology, and I got there, and he's just like, the first morning he's like, oh, and I'm just like, huh? He's like, oh, he's
But
asking you if
yeah,
you want breakfast, right? So were you there for like, did it take you a few days, a week to be like, I even able to understand those people? Like, was it just so thick?
still don't understand them.
Right.
I truly, even when I was there like last year several times, I was just like, I don't know what you said. And especially if you've been drinking and they've been drinking,
Oh
could
my
not tell
God.
Right.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
I
I
just
was
kind
going
of
to ask
laugh.
you about that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's as soon as I get a couple drinks in me, I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying, but you sound good.
Did they have just as much of a struggle to understand you with your American accent as you have understanding them?
No,
No, you don't
I
think?
don't. I think no one ever really was like, what would you say? It was always just me being like, wait, sorry, what? And then just being like, okay.
You know, I don't know if well, you went there from LA, and actually, when I went to England, I was in LA at the time too. But like, I would be like meet people and be like, "Oh, I'm from Texas," and there's a whole nother dynamic to being from Texas. People go, "Oh, you're American or whatever." But
Hmm.
then if you're like from Texas, they're like, Did you get that?" Where people like, "Wow, cool. Do you have a horse and a 6-shooter?" Like, like they just, I feel like they're fascinated with Texans, right?
Yeah, I think definitely like the general European take on Texas is very fun. Like once my parents and I got in a car crash in Slovakia and the cop came and he didn't speak any English, but then he saw my dad's driver's license that said Texas and he goes, cowboy. And then he let us go. We were
Wow,
like, okay, well,
nice.
the car's still messed up, but thank you.
Yeah,
So yeah, people love that.
It's a cultural dividend the world over from being from
Yeah,
Texas.
yeah. Why are we here, man?
definitely.
I think a lot of us are like, we should go to Europe or we should go to Japan, and then like we'll just be like, wow, man, you guys are cool. Here, you're just like a dude, just a dude with a guitar.
Madeline, I think if you went to Japan with your bagpipes, people would flock from all over. It probably not something that the average Japanese person had ever seen in person. Like you would probably be a mega star over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is really fun. I love like traveling with them. And so I've like played in a bunch of different countries where, yeah, like a lot of people like just have never heard it before. And it's like definitely my favorite thing.
Right.
I
So, but
ask you
yeah,
about
haven't been to Japan. Got to add that on the list.
where have you been outside of, yeah, what are some countries you've played in?
I mean, Amsterdam, but they had heard him before. Spain, I played in Andorra. I played in Kenya and Rwanda.
Holy
Wow.
cow! Wow.
Yeah,
What was
just
that like?
I mean, literally just wherever I go. It was really cool. I mean, like, yeah, no one had heard them before, but like, I mean, what's like really cool about bagpipes is that like almost every country, it seems, has their own like take on bagpipes.
Right.
And so like the Scottish bagpipes are the ones everyone thinks of, but like there's like truly over 100 different varieties. And so like even though like the Scottish one is like obviously very unique, like people normally have seen like some sort of iteration of it like in their own culture, which I think is really cool. And so like Afghanistan has their own, like
Right.
a lot of different African countries, Caledonia. And
They use a
so
goat stomach for the pipes in Afghanistan, don't they? Is it goat stomach?
probably,
Like for
I don't
the
know. I mean, the
actual.
Scottish ones like used to be like stomachs and bladders and stuff. So
Yeah.
that
It's
makes
just
sense.
they just figured out how to make haggis an instrument, basically.
Yeah.
What was the cuisine like
So
over there? Like, you got favorite cuisine? Did you like that food
in
or
Scotland,
or anything like? I mean, haggis doesn't seem like the. I don't know if I've had haggis. It doesn't seem appealing. My taste a little. Did you have
it's
what do
really
they call
good.
it? Did you have black pudding over there?
No, I think that sounds disgusting, honestly. And the problem with Scotland is it is like I'm tragically gluten free, and it is the
Mm.
least gluten free friendly place I have ever
Mm.
been. And so I pretty much exclusively eat Thai and Indian food when I'm over there, but that is really good.
Yeah.
So
So they got a Thai.
no
I
problem.
definitely remember that about England. Like, lots of good Indian food.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of times, if
Yeah.
you ordered out or something, it was usually Indian food.
Yeah. But the Scottish people really just like love to bread everything. They fry it even when it really shouldn't be, or they'll just be like, "Yeah, and there's breadcrumbs in it." It's like, but why? We didn't need that, and
Is
now
it
what
very
can I
much
eat?
like feasty like meals? Did they have like the Sunday meal? Were you staying like with a family or something? Like, how did that work? Like, studying abroad, or did you have a place?
No, when I was there, I guess in college, there were just like student dorms, and so it was like me and one of my best friends, and then we were just living with like three random other abroad people. But then, like when I went back to do the festival, that time I was just like in an Airbnb. I think it would have been fun to live with a family, but it's not like, I don't know.
By the
They
time you
don't need
left, you
that.
might have actually understood what they were saying. Hey,
Yeah, maybe.
did you ever have the drink Iron Brew? Does that sound familiar?
But yeah,
Yeah, I
Iron Brew
loved
is
it.
incredible.
Oh my
What
god,
is
I
iron
was an
brew?
Iron Brew junkie when I was there. It's like, it
It's
looks
like
like it's.
Scotland's water. They
Yeah.
Okay.
drink it all the time. It's like kind of like cream soda, but it's neon orange.
Wow.
Yeah, and
And
I
Like
actually
they,
liked it better than cream soda. It's hard to describe, right? But it's like a
it's kind of
soft drink,
like,
sort of.
yeah, sort of medicine-y, but sort of like just super sweet.
interesting.
A
Okay.
thing I had that like blew my mind is called a haggis bomb, and it's iron brew plus the wine brewed by monks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Wine brewed by monks. With that.
Buckfast. So
Mm.
it's iron brew plus buckfast, and it is incredible if you ever get the chance.
I'm gonna
Haggis
have to go.
bomb. Right? I don't feel like that's something that
Yeah.
exists here. I don't think you can just walk into a local bar and be like, I want a haggis
No.
bomb.
Yeah. It's hard to find iron brew here. I mean,
I literally have
you
an
know.
Iron Brew sitting in my fridge. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I actually had my buddy bring a few over, and like one's just sitting in there that never got open. So it's probably like deadly horrible, expired at this point. But you know what's weird? I swear I don't remember where it was. It probably wasn't at HEB, but I actually saw Iron Brew on a shelf at a grocery store somewhere in Texas.
Wow.
Or it might have been where I was on tour somewhere else, but I feel
Whoa.
like it was in Texas. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this like, it was like Yingling that never was here. And I used to love that lager that was like the oldest beer in the U.S. from Philadelphia, right? And they finally started distributing it down here. I don't know, a few years ago. But anyway,
I gotta start.
Yeah.
Gotta go down the soda aisle.
Yeah. Let us know if you find any Iron Brew.
I'll buy it all.
Yeah, buy it all. And then you know what? And then we'll you buy that. Adam will buy the Monk's wine. because I
Okay.
don't know whatever that
Yes.
wine is. And
Buckfast.
Buckfast.
that Buckfast wine.
Remember, that just makes me think of that band Buckfest Super Bee. Remember them, Skunk?
No.
It was like
Buckfest
a 90s. It was like
Super
a,
Bee?
it's,
That's it sounds like a 90s band. For
well,
sure.
well, yeah, it is. It's when alternative music kind of lost its edge and it became mall-ternative, and you started having bands like Third Eye Blind and Smash Mouth and all of those kind of like fluffy alternative bands. Buckfest Super Bee was kind of in that group.
Madeline, what are some of your favorite musical groups, influences, artists? I mean, here's a question. Here's something I didn't even think of. Like, are there bagpipe players where you're like, oh man, that's the guy? You know, that's the.
I'm sure there
like,
are. I like sometimes listen to like bagpipes playlists on Spotify, but all the names are like so Scottish that they blend together and I can't remember anyone's. It's always like William McDonald, like Donald
It's all just the
McWilliam.
same.
And so I'm just like,
yeah,
okay, it's the same.
It's all two names.
But yeah, I mean, Beatles are my number one for sure. I took a class on the Beatles in college that
Awesome.
changed my life forever.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was great. And then, I mean, I do love the Dropkick Murphys. I think that they do great stuff with the bagpipes.
Makes sense.
I also love this like Celtic band called Elephant Sessions, and they do like
sounds familiar.
trad. Yeah, they do like Celtic music, but kind of sometimes blended with like electronic. And so that's like very fun. And right now I'm obsessed with the Wings album Band on the Run. I'm listening to it every single day all the way through.
I need to explore that more. Like, I'm a big Lennon solo guy. I like a lot of the Lennon stuff. I mean, not that I don't like McCartney, and I love the Beatles, of course. But like, I haven't really listened to a lot of like Wings and Paul McCartney's.
Yeah, me neither.
Stuff, but I feel like it's just because I'm like,
I haven't either.
I resonate with the darker side of John Lennon than the whimsical side of Paul.
The whimsical.
Yeah,
Jordan
no, I
Benson is my
totally
guy.
agree.
What are some? Let's just talk Beatles now. I'm all excited because I mean, who doesn't like? Who doesn't?
I'm down.
Some people don't like the Beatles, and I'm like, dude, you're just saying. It's like saying I don't like water. It's like, yeah, but you're just saying that to be different, you know? Why? Why wouldn't you like the Beatles?
I agree.
I don't think
it's possible.
No, yeah, it's silly nonsense. What's your favorite Beatles album? Anybody?
Abbey Road.
Oh man, I got to go with that too. Probably actually.
Well, so was that the first one y'all heard?
No, I grew up with Sgt. Pepper actually, and I love that album too.
I think Sgt. Pepper.
To choose those two are right there, but Abbey Road they're just both masterpieces, though. I mean, just both incredible. Obviously,
when my dad remarried, my stepmom had a huge music collection, lots and lots of vinyl and CDs, and she had the White Album that I listened to quite a bit. She had Sgt. Pepper, and then I kind of just on my own just found Abbey Road, and someone had said it was the last Beatles record. I was like, oh, okay, so I want to hear what they were doing at the end, and that one is just like top 10, Desert Island. If I could only choose 5 records, that would probably be one of them,
I hate to incriminate myself in case I run for political office, but I also had just a really cool Abbey Road experience where I smoked a joint and listened to Abbey Road on vinyl with a Disney animator from back in the day who worked on all those classic movies. So that was just kind of a really cool thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really
I don't know.
Cool.
So, but I mean, yeah, Abbey Road, but I actually grew up, my parents had a cassette, right? And I didn't have there wasn't a lot of albums, but the ones they had were really good, like Doors' Greatest Hits and stuff, like CCR, stuff like that. Good classic rock, Elton John. But they had this one dubbed cassette tape, right? That was Madeline's what's that? This one dubbed cassette tape that was Sgt. Pepper on one side and Fleetwood Mac Rumors on the other side. So, I mean, that was obviously just two iconic, amazing albums that I heard a lot as a kid. So Sgt. Pepper's for the longest time was really all I knew from the Beatles. I mean, I probably had heard it, I heard a few hits here and there, but then when I got into stuff later and explored their catalog, what about you? What was your introduction to them?
I feel like a lot of people the reason I asked is I feel like a lot of people I've talked to always say their favorite is the first one that got them into Beatles. Which I kind of feel like is the case with me. First was the White Album, but then if I had to also pick best in terms of production value and everything, Abbey Road's so good. Yeah, I love the White Album. Although I will say I think Beatles for Sale is so underrated.
Yeah,
And
that's God, you go that's way early. Which one is that? Do you know? It's not the first
it's
one.
like the four of them. No, it's like the fourth one. I think it was maybe right after Hard Day's Night. And so it's like half
Okay.
covers, but then half
Right.
new stuff.
Yeah,
But
those old ones I hadn't really listened to other than hearing all the hits. I hadn't really listened to those ever, and then I went and listened to all their early stuff, and some of it kind of bleeds together. But there are a lot of covers, right, on those early albums. And one of my absolute favorites is I want to say the person who wrote it is Meredith Willson. The song "Till There Was You." Till there
yeah,
was
that's a good
you.
one.
Do you know that song, Adam? Oh my God, what a
I don't.
beautiful song. Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know
and the
that
Beatles
one.
covers is just, it's kind of like unlike anything else they did either. It's jazzy. It's like really jazzy. It's very, very, very cool.
Speaking
Yeah,
of Beatles
I love
covers,
when they do like the old 50s covers.
Yeah.
Beatles cover Carole King. I found this out not too long ago that Carole King wrote a song called Chains that the Beatles ended up
Album
covering on
one.
their very first record. Yep.
That whole, I
Yeah.
bet that's like half covers, that early stuff, you know?
I think it is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
a
yeah.
lot of that.
Yeah, I think the first one that there's no covers on is Hard Day's Night.
So,
But then like
well,
pretty much all their early stuff is like
tell us
a lot of
about
covers.
the Beatles class you took. Like, what did that change for you? What did you learn?
Well, like
I don't know.
it sounds crazy being a senior in college, but I like knew the Beatles obviously were like a band and had this whole like mania, but had never actually like listened to their songs. Like knew obviously like all the main ones. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the Beatles, but like didn't, I don't know, ever like listen to like an album all the way through or really anything aside from just like Jude pretty much. And so her teacher was a sound engineer. And so he came at it from like very technical, kind of like talking about each song's like technical merits, all of the like advancements they made, like just in terms of recording and like studio like technology. And so we literally just marched like through album by album and listened to pretty much like every song. And he would just like tell us fun facts about every single song. And every single song I heard, I was just like, this song's incredible. Like, what's going on? And so then I really kind of got in deep after that. But yeah, I like never had like listened to them, which I blame my parents for really, but I've since shown them the light.
Oh, your parents let you down on the, well, like my parents had like,
Yeah.
I grew up with like in the 80s where it was like, oh, everything's satanic. Like everything was metal and satanic. And you watch back to that same music now and you're like, this is really like, this was scary to you people. Like it's so bad.
Yeah, try
oh,
Cannibal
MTV.
Corpse.
Yeah, MTV and Iron Maiden, the devil, and all this nonsense, right? And so it was weird because after the fact, discovered my dad had this like great classic rock record collection. And when I started playing guitar, I got like, it was coming. It would have happened at some point, but like Guns N' Roses was like a game changer for me. Like when I was like first heard Appetite for Destruction, I was like, oh my God. Like it took me a minute. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, is this heavy metal? What is this? Oh my God, heavy metal, Ozzy, satanic. And then within like a month, I was just like obsessed and like, you know, like with rock and wanted to play guitar and everything. But like, yeah, then I went back and same kind of thing. I discovered these Beatles albums and Black Sabbath and all this kind of stuff and, you know, whatever. Not that I hadn't heard these names, but like actually started like listening through and be like, why weren't you playing these records? But
literally,
at least we had our Sgt. Pepper cassette tape. So I got some Beatles in me.
Yeah.
But I think that happens a lot. And then I see it. I've been teaching for years in music and you just see it over and over, these classics. You still have kids today and generation after generation, you know, and it's like, well, there's a reason why. That's just great. It's just great, timeless stuff, you know? And I guess that's subjective, but it's hard to be subjective with something as great as the Beatles. But I love that. And I want to plug another podcast for a second. It's a podcast, Mike Norris, My Favorite Album. I went on his podcast and talked about Appetite for Destruction. And this, I don't know if he's still doing it. He's a guy in England, actually. I can't even remember how we met or how it happened. But he's actually had some cool like rock star, you know, brand name people on his show. And what he does is you pick an album and this guy does his research. He is a huge music fan. And then you go through that album and you talk about it on the podcast track by track, right? And I was just thinking, I was like, if I ever do your
That's so
podcast
cool.
again, I'm either going to pick Dark Side of the Moon or Abbey Road. That would be, I'd probably pick one of those two albums because those are in other like massive, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
who's not influenced by those, I guess. But Adam, what about you? Like, actually, like, okay, before we go, so Beatles, we've talked Beatles. Are there any other albums that just for either one of you as musicians where you were like, it was a game changer in terms of just like really drove you to music? A little bit different for you, Madeline, because I'm sure you're not going to like start citing bagpipe albums, but like, I don't know, anything that influenced you just in the artistic realm that wanted you to make go. It might be a comedian or comedians. So I'm gonna start with you though, Adam. Music wise, what are some like big things for you that made you go, I want to do this?
Wow. Okay. I would say it's a triad. I would say Fleetwood Mac Rumors, Led Zeppelin 4, and Jeff Buckley Grace. Those three records are probably the ones that made me want to be a musician and to get really good at guitar and singing.
Mission accomplished, Madeline.
Yeah.
I know. Wow, you got those locked and loaded. I'm literally like scanning. I'm like, I guess I really like Pink Floyd's The Wall in terms of seeing how like an album can also be a story in such a way. Like I know at the time it was like really made fun of for being so high concept, but I like really enjoy, I guess, stuff like that. And it's kind of like one of those where like not only is the music awesome, but like if you close your eyes, like I feel like it just like paints a whole picture for you from start to finish. And so for a while I was like trying to write a pilot based on Pink Floyd's The Wall, which I think I made the musician a bagpiper. My God, I can't be stopped.
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm already ready to read this script immediately.
I know.
Like,
I'm like,
I'm already sold.
I don't even know where that
Hear
went.
me out, everybody. No, this is such a good pitch, right? Hear me out. It's like Pink Floyd's The Wall, but he's a bagpiper, right? Like I'm already like, tell me more.
Right? Yeah. So that was definitely, I think, I guess, just in terms of like seeing what's possible story wise to music. And then also just sort of in terms of like hearing, I don't know, stuff like that is so different. Like I love, I don't know, kind of similar to Beatles, but the Claypool Lennon Delirium. Do y'all know them?
Yes.
Did either of y'all see them live?
I missed them.
Yeah,
they were
man.
at Emos, right?
I have a playlist that's just labeled Nothing But Awesome, and it's just random, all kinds of stuff, right? And I put it on the other day. I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I'm like going through, and I recognize this song, that, and all of a sudden the song starts. I'm like, what is this? What the hell? And then and then you can hear the influence, and you're like, oh yes, and then you just totally hear you just hear it. You just hear that beautiful blend of Claypool Lennon, and it's so good. Yeah, I mean, no, I love that.
Sean Lennon sounds so much like John Lennon. It's eerie.
I know.
Yes.
I do feel like that is kind of like a band where like if John was like around today, pretty much if he was his said essentially like still but young, like I feel like that is kind of like this sort of experimenting like him and all the Beatles were like envisioning back just before like technology, I feel like, and stuff like wasn't that far, you know, because it all sort of builds off of what they did first.
I feel like it's a weird thing. I wonder because, like, not to say they wouldn't have just been super highly, you know, prolific and everything anyway, but in a weird way, I think like in the old days, like with the less, it's almost easier to do more because you couldn't get bogged down with a zillion plugins and all these all this technological. It can be great, but it also can just sort of like be hurdles and whatnot. I think it's like
they're crutches is what they are.
They can become crutches.
Yeah,
yes.
you have
those guys went in the studio. All those old bands went in the studio. They had done nothing but play Germany 7 nights a week, or forever for 2 years. They were just so good, knew so much music that they just go in and go, boom. And you had George Martin, and then I feel like between the Beatles and Les Paul, they just invented multi-track recording and then what could be done and push the boundaries to no end. I mean, what they were doing with 4 tracks. Now we would just be like, what do you mean I only have 4 tracks? That's a snare drum. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
so true.
You can get over the top with all this stuff. And I think like it's almost like maybe a bit of a lost art, is being prepared as a band and then like really making it happen in the moment, in the room with what you have. Right. And speaking of Abbey Road and all, Abbey Road recordings and all that stuff.
Here.
Yeah.
Well said.
I wanted to actually ask you too, Madeline, about comedians. What made you want to get into comedy? Have you always, I've always just been a stand-up fan. Like, where have you always been into stand-up, or just were there certain comedians? Was there a moment there that made you go, I really want to do this? What drove you to that?
Yeah, I think I traced like my comedy journey to like probably middle school. I every like NBC Thursday night was like truly the highlight of my week, and like getting to watch like, 30 Rock, The Office, Parks and Rec, Community every single week was just like, I was like, I love this so much. And then coupled with like, I feel everyone goes through the SNL obsession, but like every single Saturday in high school, I would watch live. Also, because I wasn't invited to parties, but that worked out. And so I just was always kind of like, SNL seems so amazing. Like, what can I just want to be on it, but I don't even know like what that entails. And so I didn't even really think of like these TV shows or SNL as sort of like, I didn't realize they were written. Like, that sounds so dumb, but I just like was kind of like, these shows are great and these people are funny. But then when I got to college, I just was kind of like talking about how I love SNL and, TV and all of this. And obviously going to USC is like perfect. So is everyone else here. And so there's like a campus TV station that had basically like student run shows. One was like a 30-minute long weekend update. And I just kind of like, where basically all the students like act and write and put together like a half-hour show for every Friday. And I just kind of like made myself go, and I just was like super anxious, too afraid to talk in meetings, but like just kind of ended up like making friends, and then like sort of just like learning about like the whole writing process, because like I'd never done it, and like all these people were doing stand up, and I also like didn't even really know stand up was a thing. Like, it's just not really, at the time it like wasn't a thing in Houston. And so basically like college again. And so then once I realized all these other people I was like doing stuff with were doing stand up, I was like, well, maybe I'll just try it. And then I like, almost passed out, was so anxious. And my parents were like, why are you doing this? Like, you hate being in front of people. And I was like, I don't know. And I just kind of kept going for some sort of mystery urge.
That is actually really interesting. Because here's the thing: when you say you were like nervous being in front of people, were you more introverted like in school, or were you a big extrovert?
Oh yeah, I never talked in class. No, I was very, very
it makes sense
shy.
to me. Yeah, I think like, that makes sense for a lot of artists that are like that. There's that part of you though that I think wants to get out and wants to perform, right? So I think it makes sense when an introvert is drawn to, how could you get on stage? That's, and you're like, I don't know, but it makes sense, right? Adam, are you similar in that way? Did you have a similar experience, or were you the football jock that was just?
No, I was a member of a self-assembled group called the Losers Club. So if that tells you, any indication of where I was in the social strata in high school. But
that's admirable. I wish I would have just embraced it. If I could go back, I would be in chess club. I would be in band and orchestra. I'd be the biggest nerd in school. Right. Like, I was too busy. I think like my freshman year was the best, because me and my buddy, we were like just two dorks, but we loved it. We were like in theater class. We were like the class clowns. And then it was like, all of a sudden in senior year, we're dressing like preppy and going to parties. Like, what are you doing? This is not you. Like, you should be in a rock band, dude. Like,
I did.
Know yourself.
All I did in high school was basically sleep and play music. And I think I stopped doing homework second semester freshman year.
Whoa.
Oh, you did more homework.
Madeline could never.
Yeah.
You did more homework than I did. I'll never forget, dude. God. Like, the way teachers can impact someone, and I'm not going to blame this woman for the downfall of my life, but like, I had a Spanish teacher and I worked really hard, and I'll never forget this. And I fucking was so mad about this. This lady's just like, I had an 89. I had an 89.49, right?
Jesus.
That technically rounds up to an 89.5, which technically Am I right?
It should.
You're right.
It should.
And I swear to God, I got this super condescending, lo siento, Armando. And I'm like, wow. And it just kind of killed my urge. And, not like I had an urge to be like a straight A student, but I think I kind of like fell off after that and never recovered. I'm blaming it all. I'm blaming my lack of education on this one Spanish teacher.
It's her fault. I
It's yeah.
mean, yeah, I definitely look back. I was so stressed about grades and, definitely didn't need to be so stressed. No one's ever once asked me for proof of any sort of diploma or report card, but
Sure.
what can you do now?
But now you're back in school for accounting. Is this correct?
Now I'm back in school, yes.
And how are
But
you?
now I
You're
know that
going.
grades don't matter, so it's
So
weird.
you're basically you just went to UT to. Are you going to UT or Texas? Where are you going?
Yeah, UT.
So basically you're just doing it to party at this point, right? You're just like basically you're just like, hey, like I used to go study and worry, but now I'm just going to show up at all the parties with my bagpipes and be like everybody's favorite person.
Yeah, all the 18-year-olds would literally have me arrested. I think I would like.
Have you ever just gotten like an what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, whenever
Why are you
everyone finds
playing
out
those?
yeah.
Have you been
Everyone's like,
invited
what?
by any? Have you been invited by any of the fraternities to come and play the pipes at one of their parties? Just like gold star access. This girl plays bagpipes. We gotta have her for next Friday night.
No, I don't think anyone like knows. I mean, I don't know really anyone
Wow.
that goes to UT.
It's on the DL.
Yeah, I have
Right.
to
You're
play
above
next
that.
week on campus though, so that's going to be
word's
my
gonna
big
get out.
debut.
Word's gonna get
Word's
out.
going to get out. I think I'll get shut down pretty fast, but whatever.
This seems to be your shtick, like, and this is what you talk about in your act. So let's like
Yeah.
with your comedy act and talking about the bagpipes, you did so. What I saw, you did some comedy, and then you know it led up to bringing the bagpipes out, and then you play the bagpipes, and everybody loves it. And but you something about, and I watched some of your videos. There's some videos on your website. Anybody wants to check out some little shorts, Madeline Hamilton or Mad Hamilton. Looks like maybe it needs an update like all of our websites,
They're
right?
old.
But that's all
Yeah.
right. You've got some stuff here that I guess this stuff's probably in LA, right? That you're performing. It looks like some of this is in Scotland, probably too. You're playing something, I guess it's a bagpipe, and on looks like in front of hills. So I'm just assuming that's in Scotland because only Scotland has
Yes,
hills.
that is a short film I made while over there.
Well, yeah, short film, The Odyssey. Tell us.
I basically thought it would be funny to just chronicle my bagpipes journey while I was over there. And so, like, when you first start playing bagpipes for the first like 6 to 12 months, you are on like what's called a practice chanter, which is essentially like a recorder. And so
that's
I
what that is.
would,
Okay.
yeah. And so I went very like method with it. And so I went Facebook Live because this was 2018. I went Facebook Live with all of my chanter practices every single day, and I just would never acknowledge the camera, and it was literally just me learning how to play and obviously sounding terrible. And then at the end of the semester, my friend and I just filmed like kind of like a build up to me busking on the Royal Mile, but just with my practice chanter. And I think there's some element of like demonic obsession and maybe Sir Walter Scott based spells. It was really, I can't describe it as good, but it was a fun little event that happened. So yeah, I haven't watched that in years, honestly.
Are you still doing this kind of stuff, or do you still have that same interest, or is the time not there? Are you interested in other things in terms of writing scripts, making short films? Is that still a passion of yours?
I haven't written like a screenplay probably in a few years. I never really got into short films just because of the whole equipment and editing. I enjoy more just kind of like things that don't require a lot of, I guess, like infrastructure is the best way I can describe it. So like I mostly just like, yeah, prefer writing and like performing like in person.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been working on a novel for like 4 years, and that is hopefully going to be like done in the next week. And so that's also a reason I haven't like, I don't know, that's been my main project for off and on, like, yeah, like 4 years, kind of like I bounce back and forth between my one woman show and the book. So who knows what's next, but.
Any performances that you're going to be doing in the upcoming months that you know of?
Yes. Next Friday, March 7th, is the UT Talent Show, which is why I wrote the bit that I performed at Radio Coffee.
Okay.
And so the UT Talent Show is happening. The winner gets $1,500.
Wow.
And
Woohoo.
that's that's a significant amount of money. And then the audience favorite gets $850. So I'm really trying to pack the crowd. And so I'll be doing the same thing that I did at Radio Coffee pretty much, but with some more, a different ending kind of. And then I joined a pipe band, which is bagpipes and drums. And April 5th, we're throwing an event for Tartan Day. And it will be a lot of bagpipes, but then I will also be doing my bit then with more tweaks, obviously, because the bagpipes will not be a surprise at that point, but got a couple things lined up.
And are these like ticket things? Like, how do people find these events? Like, where's the UT deal at?
The UT Talent Show is 7 p.m. at the Hogg Memorial Auditorium, and it's free.
Okay.
Tartan Day, it's on our pipe band website, Silver Thistle Pipes and Drums. There's also a whiskey tasting with probably, I think, a lot of whiskeys, but that does cost money. But then there'll also be like a harpist, some other Celtic bands. The bagpipe people are going to play. I'm going to do some comedy. So it should be a fun,
cool
Celtic celebration where everyone's drunk on scotch.
Where is this?
I don't know. Does it say on the website?
Is it it's like an all day thing or something, or?
No, it's just like a 7 to 9 p.m. show, I think somewhere around town.
Cool. This is a pretty big group. Like how many people are
there? It is.
Yeah,
how many
that's
people?
A lot. Looks like 15 people or something.
I think that picture was before COVID. I want to say now there's probably 10.
Okay.
But then 4 or 5 drummers. So I guess it's
how did this happen?
Just joined,
how did that happen?
So my teacher in LA had been telling me to join a band for a while. That's kind of the main first step in a piper's journey to getting good, but I never did because I didn't want to be stressed out, and I just
also
kind of
most
was,
bands
in
aren't
school.
We're looking for a bagpipe player.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't happen every day.
Well, these
Never
are
seen
it's
it,
yeah.
And a
I mean, it's all
pipe band.
Yeah, and so anyways, I didn't join one for a long time, and then finally was okay, I guess it's time to crack down and have some real instruction. This person that saw my show in Scotland followed me on Instagram, and when he saw I was moving to Austin, he was like, I have a friend in the pipe band there, you should join. It'd be good for your technique, no offense. And I was like, you're right. And so he was correct. So it's been, they're strict but kind. So hopefully they whip me into shape.
Do y'all do haggis bombs after rehearsals, or?
I should bring some. That would be really funny. Yeah. So it's fun to have a little Scottish group here. Thank you.
Definitely hope to catch that. And maybe the UT, that's Friday the 7th. Blah.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think I can make that, but I'm sure you'll be amazing.
That's okay. You saw it last week.
I hope you win. Yeah.
Thank you.
One last thing on the comedy. You're right about this, your comedy. Somehow, how do I say this? You sort of you talk about relationships and how they equate to the bagpipes, different relationships.
The bagpipes. I teach about the bagpipes through stories of my sexual escapades.
I wonder if you could give us a sample. I've really put you on the spot.
Well, I mean, I kind of equate the learning the practice chanter with the story of my first kiss, because the practice chanter is very awkward and you don't really know what you're doing. And so it's more I guess metaphorical than people have pitched me a lot of very dirty jokes about the bagpipes. And yes, that is a way I could have gone with this, but it's not. And so I sort of parallel learning with, the story of my first kiss is the first chapter in the story. And then it escalates from there.
This chantering, is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Chanter, that's with just one pipe, right? And can you explain what you're doing and what you're actually working on when you start playing? Like what and why, and you have to do, obviously the bagpipe is a very complicated instrument and very, very difficult to play, but like, what is it that you're working on in that initial time when you're just doing that one pipe?
Yeah, so you start, I mean, you even now, like, you still use the practice chanter to like learn new tunes and stuff and like do scales. And it's just kind of like the go-to sort of like practice and improvement one, just because like once you like learn, say, a couple tunes in the scale on the practice chanter, which is just like, yeah, the little bottom thing with the little holes for the notes, then you like get onto the bagpipes, and it's just really hard to like remember everything you just learned and also maintain the like steady airflow necessary to make a sound, plus it being physically intensive. And so like when you get onto the bagpipes after feeling like, okay, I'm pretty good at practice chanter, it's been like 6-8 months of me, like I've got 4 tunes I know, like I can play them no problem on the practice chanter, you kind of like start back at square one on the bagpipes, and you have to sort of like build back up as you're just like learning how like the process works of like, yeah, just maintaining like a sound, making a sound. And then like once you obviously understand how the bagpipes work and you're good and things, you still just kind of learn stuff on the practice chanter. I think also just because they're really loud and it's like just really hard to like try play new stuff, work on things. I don't know. So they're sort of just like the more accessible, like.
Is the practice thing, does that drive your neighbors crazy too? Or is that like more low key?
No,
where you
it's
kind of
really
get
quiet.
away with it? Okay. So that's
yeah,
like, you just
so
play the
that's
full bagpipes to be a dick. Like you just like, I want to annoy these people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. They're kind of like just the cherry on top of all the work you do on the practice chanter.
That's what this really comes down to, just a sadistic desire to just annoy neighbors.
Look, I play in the cemetery. I'm very nice. I'm very considerate.
Yeah, like the whole cemetery thing is, I've heard it's soothing for them, for the ghosts.
Yes. Yeah, the ghosts love me.
Why, now that you said that, I feel like, was that part of your act, or I saw that somewhere, is that literally about like someone like saying you should go play the cemetery because nobody wants to hear this? Or was that the thing? Like you go there because no one's around? Why the cemetery?
Yeah, my teacher told me the best places to practice to avoid complaints are in cemeteries and by freeways, just because those are either very loud places or places where no one else is, because people do tend to complain.
I feel like,
and it's expected in the cemetery, so even if someone hates it, they think I'm mourning,
I don't know why.
they won't come up.
Yeah, you're right, because if I was in a cemetery and I heard bagpipes, I would just automatically assume it was some, I don't know, some fallen soldier getting like, oh,
exactly.
Look, that veteran's granddaughter is playing bagpipes at his grave or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
so
if
it's
I've
kind
actually
of the
seen
best place.
Bagpipes, but it makes sense.
Skunk,
yeah, it's definitely
I don't think
my
I
go-to.
mentioned. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Skunk. I don't think I mentioned this to you, but Madeline and I actually jammed.
She told me.
Not too long. Oh, she did tell you. Okay.
Yeah, because I was asking about tuning and I wanted to talk about that. And she was like, yeah, it was kind of, I guess, interesting, right? Because how did that work? Was the guitar not into, did you have to tune to the bagpipe?
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a slam dunk. It's like, okay, it's in an A major scale. Cool. We can play in this mode and this, but it turns out like your A is like, what it is, like 478 Hertz, something like that. It's between B natural and A sharp. So it's off enough that if you try to play in a standard tuned guitar, it just doesn't work.
It probably works great with the Rolling Stones because none of their music's in tune. I don't know if you've ever tried to play to a Rolling Stones. I heard they tuned to Mick Jagger, but it might just be the tape, or, you know what I mean? Old tape, stretch and slow, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of records like that over the years that are slightly out of tune, like Metallica's Ride the Lightning and stuff. It's just like, I think because they sped up the tape or something, but like, yeah. So, I mean, it's the worst, like 478, that's pretty significant. Like that's pretty, and when you're playing to those things that are in microtonal, it's just like hard to deal with. So you had to tune.
Yeah, I manually tuned to her, and then we were able to jam together. It sounded pretty good once I tempered my guitar to where the bagpipe was at.
Yeah,
why is it cool. Why is it like that? Why can't bagpipes
just love to torture everyone in all different ways.
All part of the bagpipe torture conspiracy.
Yep.
That sounds like kind of a good
Yep.
name. That could be a Lennon Delirium album title, like the bagpipe
Bagpipe
True.
torture conspiracy.
You need to like meet Les Claypool and Sean Lennon and be like, hey, I got an idea. I feel like Les
Yeah.
Claypool would definitely be like, okay, cool. We'll make an album next Tuesday because he's one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, have you heard the Flying Frog Brigade stuff? Like he's got the whole album of the Animals by Pink Floyd. It's incredible.
Yeah, I saw them do Animals in concert. It was the best. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so
It was
cool.
awesome.
I have never seen Les Claypool, I hate to say, but I saw that Primus is actually coming here soon, like maybe in April or May or something.
Man, that would be cool.
Yeah, I gotta see Primus.
Yeah,
man.
he's one of the ones that I missed growing up in the 90s. So
let's talk about what are some of the best concerts you guys have ever seen, Madeline?
My all-time favorite what year is my poster? 22, 10-year anniversary of Lonerism. It was the Tame Impala album, and he played it. It was for this music festival, Desert Days, which was in the desert outside of LA on the shores of a lake. And it was the first and only time he played through Lonerism in its entirety. And it was just the absolute most incredible concert I've ever seen. People came in from all around the country. People were there from Canada. Like, it was one where every single person knew every single word. And like, then on top of it, like, the lights and the visuals and like the fact that we were in the desert and the drugs, it was so great. And so that definitely is, since then, I kind of like, yes, it was maybe the shrooms, but I felt like, I don't know if y'all have read The Giver. It's like a book from like middle school where basically everyone lives in a black and white world, but there's this like one old man that remembers what color looks like, and he like teaches these kids to like see color. I kind of felt like that concert was like my hour and a half of seeing color, and now am forced to live in this black and white world for the rest of time, and nothing is compared.
Yeah, mushrooms definitely kind of just adjust things to a sharper focus, like all of the senses. You know, it's like my description of it, or how I would try to describe it, is like, you know, when you're looking through binoculars and it's just not quite in focus, and then you just make that last little adjustment on the knob, and then all of a sudden everything pops. It's like, oh, now everything's in focus. It's like, that's kind of what my experience with shrooms have been, just like, but, you know, across the sensory landscape, like everything, you know, color, hearing, not so much touch, but certainly the audio visual. That's been my experience with it. And musical.
Yeah, it was a 90-minute concert. My friend and I spent the next 2 hours after the concert dissecting the societal implications and how no one can possibly continue the same after that.
Yep. That's what you do in the long tail. That's when the best conversations you ever have happen.
What about y'all?
Yeah, drugs are cool, man. I didn't really have a lot of shroom. I've never done acid, and I had a few times where I did shrooms, but nothing. I didn't really feel. I was like, am I just stoned? Is this just weed? Now I don't know if I'm really. And then I had one time where I tripped balls, and it was so much fun. I've never laughed so much in my life, and also like I was sitting around a campfire. It was like at a camping thing. I can't recall if I've seen a concert on shrooms or not. Actually, maybe not. But anyway, I just remember doing this, and I might have sounded like crap, I don't know, but I was so into it. I remember doing Hotel California and just feeling like I was just amazing, you know, and it was super fun. So I can imagine just like, that's just a whole next level thing, especially when you get into visuals and stuff, you know, like I remember finally it saw Tool, you know, and there was like 2 sets, and I think I got stoned for the second one. It was just like, you know, just like extra cool.
Yeah. When everything's like perfectly synced up. I just also had never been to a concert where like every single light and every single sound was like perfect.
Yeah.
And I just felt like my little bird brain was not evolutionary enough to like handle what I was seeing.
Right. Yeah. That's why I had to like take it in after the fact and talk about everything.
Exactly. I was just like,
retrace.
Yeah, well, we're the product of apes getting stoned for hundreds of thousands of years, probably, if you believe the stoned ape theory.
Please elaborate.
Okay, so this is kind of a spiritual belief of mine, but I think that there are certain molecules that were left or placed on this planet that are meant to be aids in our cognitive and spiritual development as a species. And I think that, you know, psilocybin in particular, I mean, you really or experience it to a very intense degree, like empathy when you're on mushrooms, and that's an integral part of what separates us from the lower animal kingdom, is the capacity to, you know, understand what other creatures are feeling. And so I'm not an expert on it. Paul Stamets would be the guy that you would want to, you know, look up his podcast. He did a great interview with Joe Rogan on this topic. But stoned ape theory is basically like, you know, that right as we entered the threshold of Homo sapiens, you know, that span of a couple of million years, you know, we're just starting to cultivate agriculture. We're the hunter gatherers. We see these things, we eat them because we want to, you know, find out what they are. And just gradually, generation after generation, like the shaman discovers the mushroom and then provides it, teaches it to the rest of the community. Hey, you should check this out, you know. And then the question is, you know, does that elaborate over time into, you know, higher spiritual and, you know, empathetic capacity for the progeny of the earlier generations who started ingesting those chemicals? So that's kind of what the stoned ape theory is.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, certainly people who, I won't drop names, but I know people who have done a fair share of drugs who would definitely agree with that theory. I mean, it makes sense. And there's a part of me, like, you know, I think most people, it's not so taboo like it once was, where if you say you smoke weed, that's like, who cares anymore, right? But even talking about shrooms and stuff, it's just like, I don't think they have the same connotation as, you know, other drugs. And it's like natural hallucinogens, right? So it's like, but yeah, I feel like there's a part of me that's like, man, I kind of wish I would have tried more things and done this and done. I would think I was a little afraid to do acid and certain things, and, you know, but like, because it does, so many people will say like it just opens your mind and you're never the same. It unlocks something, right, that you can't unlock without it. So I'm not advocating for drug use necessarily, but yeah, I think there's probably something to that. And I imagine people that do a lot of this stuff a lot of them would probably agree with that. You know, I'm sure this conversation could be continued for days on end at the what's that thing in Vegas? Why can't I think of the name of it right now? The big not Dirt Man. Fuck's that thing called?
Burning Man?
Oh.
Yeah, Burning Man. We'll do a podcast at Burning Man. We'll just do shrooms and just talk about
just like take
this
the
dude's
laptops
philosophy
and just,
for
swing them around
4 days straight. Yeah. Well, cool. Oh gosh, there was one more thing that was in my head and now I lost it. Crap. I guess we covered everything, right? Drugs, comedy, drugs. It's like Charlie Sheen and Ferris Bueller. Drugs.
No thanks, I'm straight.
Silver Thistle, right? This is
yes,
this is the piping band that you are now part of.
So everybody, band. Oh yeah.
silverthistle.org. Everybody go check that out. You can see Madeline playing with them now. Obviously, madhamilton.com for the super updated website. But there's some good shorts on there. There's some little comedy bits.
Maddie Pipes. Yeah. I feel like my Instagram's the most up to date these days.
Okay, so Instagram,
Madham Pipes.
Madham Pipes. And yeah, I encourage everybody to go see you perform whenever you are performing, because it's certainly a unique show. It's one of those times I happen to have earplugs in my pot, which you should always just have them on you, right? As a musician, you never know.
I agree. Yeah.
And I was all like, you were like, it's going to be loud. People are going to hate me. And I'm just like, I was all like front row with my earplugs in. Like,
I almost didn't bring my earplugs to when Madeline came to jam. I thought, it's an acoustic instrument. I don't have my earplugs. But I brought them as almost an afterthought. And I was like, damn, I'm glad I brought my earplugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I know what it was that popped in my head now too. I just through that last conversation and the ape theory stuff, like I feel like the bagpipes had to have been invented by somebody on something. Like some dude did some killer shrooms and that's where this instrument came. Do you know the origins of the bagpipes by any chance? Like where they came from? how they
I
originated?
think that I think in our class, we kind of just talked about how there's sort of like a century where they think that they were first developed, but there's no sort of like clear records. They just sort of started being included in like engravings and random like paintings and stuff at a certain point. But yeah, the idea that someone would like take a discarded animal stomach and then stick a bunch of stuff in it and then blow to see what happens. I'm like, what sick freak came up with this? But apparently everyone's a sick freak because it's every country around the world. So
Yeah, no, it was just like, it's these were the guys that were
Yeah,
they
it's
were
like
like they weren't popular in school, and they're like, I will have my revenge, and they came up with this instrument that they could just
yeah.
blow and drive people
it's
insane with.
mind blowing technology if you think about it. Like I mean, if it's like about 1,000 years old, it's I think is that about roughly the time period, like around 12th
Mm-hmm.
century, something like that. So it's like
Yeah.
technology was so rudimentary. I mean, that was like you had to like forge swords in a with an anvil, and it took like days to do, and you didn't really have much to help you out in your daily life. And then someone figures out how to make this thing. It's like
It's really
it's a
crazy,
stroke
man.
of genius. I mean, that if it came from one person, or maybe it was developed over time by like a family, maybe that's my best guess.
It just blows
I
my
think
mind
just,
that
yeah.
go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna say, I think like a bunch of people all over the place kind of had similar inklings and just stuck in whatever because not like all of them have the same amount of drones. Not all
Mm-hmm.
of them have like the same sort of like chanter. It is just, and some are bellows blown, some are like mouth blown. And so I think people just got bored and
It's
I
like
don't
some dude
know.
was
We're like,
fanning a
let's,
fire
yeah,
next to like
yeah.
a
And it's
dead
like,
sheep, and he was like, what if I took that intestine and did
yeah.
this thing with that and blew into it? I don't know.
Hmm.
It is crazy though, because now it's kind of like, Adam, I know you can relate to this. It's weird, man. It's like on the one hand, super cool. You can just get in a DAW and you got every plugin under the sun. You see all these things on this chain for your vocals, and everybody now it's like even exponentially crazier with AI, and you don't even have to know anything, and you can be an artist and have AI write all your I hate that, right? I mean, what person kind of wouldn't hate that as an artist, I think, but I don't know, maybe not everybody. But what's weird to me is like this technology and all these things that can do all these things now. It's like, wow, it's so amazing. It's insane. But you think back to where there wasn't even plumbing. People were shitting in chamber pots, and you had Bach and Mozart and Beethoven. And I mean, it's just like, it's kind of astounding. It's almost like a price gets paid with the technology, right? Or it can, because without all that, I guess what else were you going to do other than sit around and play piano for 12 hours a day, or take intestines and make things to blow out of? It's just like,
So
right,
true.
like the ingenuity of past generations is just so incredible. And now,
Yeah.
I mean, we all just have the luxury being like, look at us talking on, well, been all 2001 and stuff over here, all futuristic.
3 places at once.
So something we do, Madeline, we've been doing the last few podcasts, is we make a playlist for whoever's on. So let's make a playlist. Now, obviously, this playlist is going to have Beatles on it, right? So
Yes.
let's pick some. Give me a couple. You don't have anything recorded out there that people can check out, do you? Any recorded music?
No.
Okay. Because if you did, obviously that would be on the playlist.
You gotta find me on the streets if you want to hear me play.
Yeah,
hey,
which
there
we
you go.
did. Yeah,
We did, and
we did.
Which
here
y'all
we are.
did.
I love that because we get referrals from like PR companies and stuff for guests, but then here and there, that's how you meet people. Like you just
Yeah.
see an artist and you're like, oh my god, like this is amazing. So
Yeah.
okay, so what we're gonna do is I think we'll have some Beatles, we'll have some influences of yours, and then actually some bagpipers. Maybe we can. So let's start Beatles, and I'm gonna give you guys both. This is like an impossible question.
I know.
Can you pick one Beatles song?
I mean, historically, my favorite is Don't Let Me Down.
Don't Let Me Down, the Rooftop Jam. Okay, Adam.
Something.
I'll throw one in there too, but I'm not going to say it because I'll have to think about
You
it
have
for
to
like
say
4
no.
hours.
You made us pick
all of side 2 of Abbey Road. That to me, Abbey Road is like
the
almost
medley.
like the first. Yeah, it's like almost like the first concept album. The way it flows together, like that's what's like. I love that. I think that's what really sells it on Abbey Road. But like maybe I'll pick something off Sgt. Pepper since that was what as a kid like made me love the Beatles. All right,
Day in the life.
I heard a really interesting cover that you don't hear because you'll hear certain covers. I've heard so many covers of Come Together. I've heard so many, like lots of jazz covers of Day in the Life. I've certain Michelle and all these tons of Beatles songs, obviously. But I heard one the other day of She's Leaving Home. And I'm trying to think. I think it was, dude, I could be so wrong, but I feel like I was listening to Jaco Pastorius. Maybe it was, he had a cover of it, or maybe it led me down a rabbit hole, but it was in the jazz. But I was like, wow.
Jaco has covered the Beatles. He did Blackbird.
Okay, well. Yeah, so I don't know.
Looks like he did that? He did. I'm just Google right now. It looks like he did Dear Prudence. What else did Jaco?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find out which cover that was, who did that, because it was really, really cool. So if someone were to go, I want to not just go watch someone busk on the street and play bagpipes, but I want to sit in the comfort of my home and ruin the peace and quiet by listening to bagpipes through my computer or stereo. What is something people could go listen to? What Silver Thistle is there music available online that they've recorded?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I know they have CDs. They have a really cool album that's bagpipes plus Brazilian percussion.
Oh man, I wonder, is this on Spotify, you think?
King's Blessing.
I kind of doubt they're on. That's why you have to go to Tartan Day so you can buy a CD, and then you can buy a CD player to listen to the CD.
Yeah, I know. That's what's so frustrating about CD. It's not even CDs. I don't mind CDs. It's like, how the hell do I play this thing, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I literally...
It's annoying. Adam, may I ask you to clink clack on your keyboard? Can you find... Oh, do you use... You're not... Do you use Spotify? Probably not.
I have one.
Silver Thistle.
There's an album. It looks like a collection of songs called Going for Gold. Looks like that's on Spotify.
Okay, well then I would recommend that.
Listen on Spotify.
Really?
Here we go.
Okay, well, is there are these like
Silver
cover
Thistle
songs?
Pipes and Drums?
Oh, they have Samba. So it's called Samba Thistle.
Yep.
That's the album.
I see it.
Samba that's the album. Okay. Is there a song you see on there that's something you might recognize to pick a song or two?
Yeah, I think Samba Reggae, Scotland the Brave, Lord Love It, The Rowan Tree, and Bonnie Dundee.
My goodness.
So it's like a little medley.
Oh, this is like a big medley of songs? That's a medley?
Well, it's
Okay, I'll get on there and throw some of that on there. Okay, what else you got?
I mean, it's like one, but I would say The Elusive Highland Beauty by Elephant Sessions.
Elephant Sessions.
Hold on a sec. Elephant Sessions, The Elusive. My writing is so bad. I go back to these playlists and I'm like, oh God, what is this? And I'm like Googling, trying to figure out The Elusive what?
Highland Beauty.
The Elusive Highland Beauty, 2014.
I don't know why not when I hear Highland. I just think it's got bagpipes in it immediately.
It's pretty good. And then I guess to keep it, the whole album is so good, but the Old Collection is a song by this Scottish band called Breabach, Breabach.
And what's the song?
The Old Collection.
Let's pick one of those. I tell you what, let's pick maybe a Wings song that maybe, because you've been all about the Wings and Paul McCartney lately, and then let's either pick, we could do a Lennon song and or the Delirium. Maybe we get some Claypool in there too. What do you think?
Sounds good.
I think Let Me Roll With It by Wings.
Okay.
Monolith of Phobos by Claypool, Lennon, Delirium.
What's that song title? Monolith
of Phobos.
Phobos.
THOBOS.
What was the group you said that you watched on shrooms that had amazing visual audio, aural visual experience?
Any song off Lunarism. That's a fantastic record.
Yeah.
Let me see what's my favorite. It's hard to pick.
Yeah, you pick your favorite. My favorite's like unpopular. You haven't?
I think probably Apocalypse Dreams.
Yeah, I'll check it out. That's why I like doing these playlists. I find a lot of really cool music, actually. What's yours, Adam?
Apocalypse Dreams off the Lonerism record.
Oh,
it's hard to pick though. I mean, the whole record is amazing.
What did you guys jam when you jammed? How did that go? Like, what did you do?
I tuned down to drop D adjacent, because D is a, you know, it's a pretty cool mode when the accompanying instrument's an A major scale, so just playing in D, D Lydian basically. Just jamming on kind of just kind of bar chords.
Did I ask you this, Madeline, already? Did you have prior musical? Did you play any other instrument, or did you have any musical knowledge prior to bagpipes? So that was your introduction into any sort of music. Reading? Do you read music?
Yes, now.
What is
but bagpipes has its own little
clef
script, I guess. Yeah.
Is it not in? It's not in like treble. It's not in treble clef or bass clef or anything.
It's bagpipes version. So
I'm really curious, actually, how I want to see.
I want to see this now. I'm going to look it up.
You wouldn't happen to have some bagpipe music in a laying around that we could look at? I'm really curious.
Of course I do. I have it right here.
Let's see what's going on here. Okay. What are all those little? Okay, so it's in treble clef. What are all those little grace note things? You got a lot of little.
They're grace notes.
Like a little. That's a lot of little flourishes.
They're all different embellishments. There's like, they go really crazy. Some of them embellishments get so crazy they're just marked by different letters or like squiggles because it's like too many to write.
You know what I really want to do now is I want to like sit with I want to have that music, and I want to watch you play it like while I'm looking at the music so I can catch the nuances of what, because I wouldn't have thought that at all. I would not have thought of all those grace notes.
Wow.
Yeah, this one is like actually the bane of my existence, but we'll get there.
Okay, now when Adam starts talking about modes and stuff, are you like, oh yeah, sure, Lydian? Or are you like, what the hell is he talking about?
I have no idea.
You're more of a reader, you know, like whole note, half note, this kind of thing. This is a C, that kind of thing, but not so much like do you ever think in a chord way or not really? It's more melodic. You're just thinking melody?
There's no chords.
Right. So that would be an interesting, I think, you know, thing to play with a bagpipe player as a sort of a trained musician that plays instrument, you know, and who thinks quarterly, right, Adam?
Yeah.
What's the harmonic implications of this melody, or like any melody, right?
I underestimated how challenging it was going to be. I was just not prepared for it. But now that I know kind of what it entails, like I would love to try again, have something more structured where it's like, okay, now I know how this needs to happen.
I propose a future Facebook Live where you play and me and Adam try to decode what's happening. Like people can watch us get frustrated tuning our instruments and be like, I think it's that. I think it's that chord.
Yeah. I still have the recording of our jam on my phone.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any last tunes you want to throw on the list?
I mean, I'll do I think a Dropkick Murphys needs to be on there.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
I'm gonna put a Pink Floyd song on there too. We'll throw a.
Oh yeah.
Give me a Pink Floyd. Oh, you got such great taste in music. Okay. Yeah, if you had come in and been like, I love Smash Mouth, I'd have been like, oh, we're having technical problems. I'm so sorry. I had to rail on the late '90s alt rock that you brought up there. The Alternative. That's a great title. Okay, so Pink Floyd. Give me a Pink Floyd song and a Dropkick Murphy song.
Okay, Dropkicks, Johnny I Hardly Knew Ya. And actually, fun thing about Dropkicks is that they, not a ton, but they do like a good amount of like traditional covers. And so that song is like an anti-war song from like the 1800s.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And Pink Floyd, that's so hard. I feel like Pink Floyd, you really have to do like an entire album. Like I don't pick single songs.
Or like a hat, or like a side, a vinyl side.
That's
yeah.
You know,
like I mean, Shine On You Crazy Diamond.
There you go.
Yeah, why not? Like
let's put 1 through 9.
Yes. Let's just put a big epic 10-minute, 15-minute thing on there. Okay, so you know, there's a Pink Floyd. Do you guys know? Do you know the whole Pink Floyd catalog, or how much of it do you know?
I know a lot of it, not everything.
I love, I mean, like the early stuff, there's the Syd Barrett early, which some of that's pretty out there, but there's some good stuff there. Then there's like,
Metal.
I love
Metal's
Metal.
one of my
That's
absolute
a great
favorites.
record.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Even Adam Hart Mother, which is bizarre. I love that one too. And I don't know if you guys have you listened to Adam Hart Mother? Go
I have
listen
not.
to that.
That's one that I have not
dude,
heard.
go listen to that crazy ass thing. Like you want to hear some I don't know, atonal is probably not the right word, but some pretty modern, for lack of a better word, harmony. And there's a full, or in the first track on that, there's a full-on orchestra, horns and the whole thing happening, and it's pretty interesting composition, interesting chords. And then what's cool about those early 70s albums though is I feel like you hear Pink Floyd finding that sound that would later become the big long jams, like the really well constructed Shine On You Crazy Diamond and that kind of, obviously there's Echoes, but
I think Echoes was probably the prototype of that landscapey kind of cohesion.
But even if you listen to Adam Hart Mother, which I think was the year before, I think that was 70. Adam Hart Mother, you can hear it too, because I think Adam Hart Mother has got this really bizarre kind of, composition. And then they just drop into this long Dorian vibe. And it's like, oh, there's the Pink Floyd. I would highly recommend Adam Hart Mother. And then there's another Obscured by Clouds was another one that was right there in that time, right before Dark Side of the Moon. And there's a song, one particular song on that album called Watts, Uots, some weird English thing. I don't know. Watts of the Deal. I love that song. It's an absolutely beautiful song. It's got a piano solo by Richard Wright. It's brilliant. So go back and check out a couple of those old Pink Floyd albums, and Adam and I will dive into some good bagpipe music. And then we'll all listen to the Beatles.
Old Pink Floyd song from this weird soundtrack they did for this movie called More. There's a song on it called Cymbeline. That's a really pretty song.
It's like a totally different thing from Obscured by Clouds, because I know that was for some film, I think. What's the song called?
Yeah, it's different. Cymbeline.
Cool. All right. We got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will try to get this out before your show on the 7th. And congrats with the the band and everything. You got Silver Thistle, all the cool stuff you got going on. And
thank you all for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, no, and it worked out that Adam was able to guest host. I thought it was an appropriate trifecta considering how we met.
Sure.
Thanks for inviting me. It was cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, hang tight here for a minute. Madeleine Hamilton, everybody, make sure to check her out online. Go see her comedy, and let her drive you crazy with the bagpipes. It's super fun and worth it. I'm gonna stop this, but hang tight.